I'm trying to start this. Hold on. Okay. Oh, let's do it. Do you really need that much? That was over dramatic.
Are you okay, honey? You not like Star Wars? We always put a Star Wars man up there. You want to put a Star Wars man up there for the review?
No.
Do you want to tell everybody what you thought of Star Wars?
Star Wars was fucking sacrificed on the holy altar in front of everyone, and his fucking beating heart was pulled out, and we just watched it beat and slowly stop right on fucking screen. That's my fucking review of Star Wars.
Good God, you think The Last Jedi was the equivalent of the Phantom Menace or something? Holy shit. Yeah, keep on drinking. Yeah, where's my beer? I'm gonna need it to go through this one. Thanks, Greg. That was beautiful.
Goody.
Oh, Jesus. This could be a long one.
Good evening and welcome to Night at the Movies. Tonight we saw The Last Jedi.
Fuck you, Disney.
Oh my God.
Why are you telling Disney to fuck off? They're pretty much hands off. Disney just lets Lucasfilm do whatever they want, just like Pixar or what's the other one? Marvel do whatever they want. They really don't nitpick on it. So don't say fuck you Disney, say fuck you Lucasfilm. But you're not going to do that, are you?
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
We knew that Disney was going to Disneyfy Star Wars. We already saw that.
Nah, really get Disneyfied. You're blaming Disney again. Lucasfilms are only. It's a subsidiary of Disney. Lucasfilm does what they want. Don't blame Disney. Blame Lucasfilm if you get a problem with it. Personally, I don't have a problem with it. But go ahead, dude. Say whatever you want to.
They toned it way down. It was no longer the dark, gritty, lived-in universe that we were used to. There's no more dark.
I would disagree with that.
Humor. There's no more adult themes. It's all much more childish. We saw that coming, but I remember I made predictions.
I would disagree with that too.
That before Force Awakens, I knew that it was going to be basically an homage to New Hope. We were going to film another prediction before this movie, and I was too hopeful in my predictions. I thought that they were going to ape themes from Empire Strikes Back, which they did do, but they did it.
They did it, but they did it kind of backwards. If you know what I mean. Yeah, because look, honestly, if they mimic themes from Empire Strikes Back, you'd get all those people who would say, "Oh, it's just a rehash of Empire Strikes Back."
It very sloppily, like it's the movie.
It's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I mean, you get. Oh.
Starts off the same way. Even Disney went too fucking far.
How so?
Too far. It has turned into a complete slapstick nonsense fest.
The text.
I would really disagree with that. Slapstick?
Crawl was so fast. Like, it was so short.
Basically, nothing happened between the first movie and the second movie.
Let me guess. You're going to complain about porgs. June's going to love the porgs because she's got a little porg there. You're going to complain about the porgs, but you're not going to complain about Ewoks, right? Okay. Whatever, dude.
I had little pretzel bites, and I went to dip my little pretzel bite in the cheese, and when I looked back up, the text was gone, and I didn't even get to read the last half. Also, I saw the word tyranny, and I thought it said tranny, and I realized I've been fighting with TERFs on Twitter a little too much, and I should take a break.
The opening scene was actually one of the better parts of the movie. There was a decent action scene. You get to see Poe Dameron. He's back, and he's the best X-Wing pilot ever, and he's awesome.
Poe kind of turned out to be one of the only people who had like a character arc, and one of the only characters that was a little more deep.
His superiors didn't like him. He had a lot of learning to do. He was brash, but then he ends up learning by the end of the movie that he needs to be more thoughtful and more reserved. Do you remember the first interaction between Poe and Kylo Ren in Force Awakens, where he's like, "Do I talk or you talk? I talk or you talk?" In Force Awakens, that was a little much, but
no, that was fucking hilarious, dude. That was hilarious. What are you talking about? That was a little bit much. Do you talk or I talk? Do you talk? Who talks first? That was fucking hilarious.
I mean, it was fine because there wasn't much more of that in the movie. This movie was like only that.
That was the whole movie.
Every time that something...
Maybe, I'm gonna go Ellen here. Maybe they wanted to like kind of do an Empire Strikes Back thing, and they wanted to make it lighthearted because the big reveals in Episode 9. I don't know. But
serious was happening, there would be a stupid joke.
And it would be like,
awkward!
That was awkward!
And then it would ruin the tension. Poe Dameron's going to attack Hux's ship with the X-Wing. And Hux is like, "This is the First Order, you will die." And Poe Dameron's like, "I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I'm holding for Hux. Are you Hux?" And then Hux...
That was actually funny, too. A lot of people in the theater laughed. Where I was at, anyways.
It's like, "Can he hear us? Can he hear me?" And it ruins the opening scene.
It's kind of doing the whole Marvel thing, because like Marvel humor has been that awkward for a little while, like in the new Thor Ragnarok. Is that what it's called? Thor's hanging and he's like, "Oh wait, let me spin around again." It's like awkward.
I haven't seen that. So I'm not going to comment on it. Okay.
It's like Star Wars is doing that now, and it's like you can tell it's all by the same company.
No, it's not all. There's a parent company, and then you got Pixar, Disney, or you got Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm's my home team. I'm surprised you're not rooting for them, Greg.
Disney-ish humor.
If you look at Captain America, Winter Soldier, even Civil War, those movies...
Actually, my boss was like, man, you're just heavy into Star Wars. You're heavy into Star Wars. What's the deal? I was like, and my boss is a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and I figured, I gave him an analogy of that. You root for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I root for Lucasfilm. So why aren't you rooting for Lucasfilm to do it right? And I had no problems with the movie. What is this shit?
These were much grittier and more adult and handled much more deep themes. People have always argued that Star Wars is a kids movie, it's a kids series, and it sort of is.
It somewhat is. It's kind of like, Harry Potter started out like really kid friendly, and it progresses and it gets progressively darker, and each trilogy does that. It's a progression. I'm not a progressive, by the way.
To a certain degree, but it's always explored very adult themes and had very gritty, dark kind of tones. Return of the Jedi, even that movie's kind of gritty and dark. Like, look at Jabba the Hutt. If anything,
of all the things you had to point out, Jabba the Hutt in this movie, the gritty part of the movie was freaking to the last sequence with Luke and the Emperor, it wasn't Jabba the Hutt. I mean, that was gritty, but the gritty shit out of Return of Jedi. How old are you, Greg? Oh shit.
Marvel is more geared towards children than Star Wars. Yet somehow
I disagree with that too. That's crazy as shit.
Disney's Marvel division today is grittier and darker and more adult. Somehow Star Wars
No. You're floating on your own cloud, dude.
is now super clean cut, very crisp, super HD and bright and shiny, and has childish humor, childish jokes.
Maybe that's because it's all digital nowadays, dude. It's all digital shit nowadays. It's not like it's actually on film like it was back in the 80s.
What about Rogue One though? That was super dark.
Rogue One wasn't.
Hey, I'm gonna give that good one, June. Rogue One was super dark, and that's why when I went to the theater last year to see Rogue One, it got a standing O. And the one thing I'll say about The Last Jedi, when we went to see, I was at the 6 p.m. show when we went. It didn't get a standing O like Rogue One did. So June, you're on it right here. Greg, not so much.
It's a great movie, but it was very.
It's a great movie, but what?
It's depressing.
It was more adult than
Yeah, it was depressing. It's an adult movie. Rogue One rocked, dude. That's why it got a standing O at the theater. At least where I was at. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
Something inside me has always been there. But now it's awake. And I need help.
Let's get to the main character, Rey. Extremely boring.
What even?
I would disagree with you on that, June. I don't think Rey's boring. I think she's a cool character.
Is Rey's character? She's boring.
What even is Rey?
Doesn't do anything surprising. She's like fucking Harry Potter.
She kind of reminds me of just like a video game character, but from a video game that doesn't have a good story or anything. You just kind of like control the character and it does things. That's her. Like she's just like doing things.
In a lot of ways, protagonists are supposed to kind of be
Okay, I'm going to disagree with you both at this point.
blank slate-ish so that anybody can, put themselves in their
this
shoes.
much.
But this character, she doesn't have any flaws other than she doesn't know who her parents are.
Remember when Luke was like,
Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it's still up for debate.
"Your powers are too strong."
That would be a grandfather, not a father, but whatever.
I was never scared, but now I am. I was like, oh, this reminds me
You're
of.
face palming already, and we're only 6 minutes and 29 seconds into the video, Greg? Come on, man.
The other movie when like she's randomly flying the Millennium Falcon and like Han Solo was like, "Whoa, this is crazy! You're so good."
Then Rey and Han are like swapping tips on how to like bypass the compressor or whatever. This time it's worse because Chewie shows up to talk to Luke and fucking Rey translates Chewie to Luke. Like, Rey, you've known Chewie for a fucking week. Luke has known Chewie for decades. I think if either of you know how to fucking translate what Chewie's saying, it's fucking Luke.
She womansplained hard.
She's a woman's.
That's a good one, June.
Explained, yeah.
Finn is so irrelevant.
Finn is, instead of boring, he's a stupid character. The first time you see Finn, he's
I would disagree with that. Yeah, I would disagree with that.
wakes up out of his hospital bed and all slapsticky falls out and he's wearing a water bottle that's pouring everywhere.
He could have
Yeah,
still.
that was funny. That was actually called comedy. That was funny. Can I hold your porg for a minute, June? I promise I'll give it back.
Been in a coma for this whole movie and like nothing would have changed, and maybe he wakes up in the next movie and does something, because in this movie he did nothing.
Doesn't he look hot in that leather jacket though? Finn meets a new character, Rose, and they go on an adventure together, and
His
she
anime waifu.
is such an irrelevant character, and she takes up like at least a third of the entire screen time.
You could tell they were going for like a cutesy, quirky character.
What's wrong with Rose? I love the character of Rose. In case you missed it, Greg and June, her sister died blowing up that fucking shit in the beginning. Which is why you have the whole necklace thing. I mean, did you just miss that? I mean, what the fuck, dude?
But she just came off as, like, not charming at all, just kind of like, why?
Why? Because she was hero worshipping Finn? That you say is a non-character? What the fuck, dude?
Did like an anime character. She was like an anime character. She had
You're Asian-splaining now.
Anime hair, and she even did that oh my god thing that anime characters do. She was kind of cute though.
No, she was just annoying.
She was cute, like in the little sister sort of way, like the please God, Mom, don't make me bring her along sort of way.
Yeah. And like her and Finn's chemistry, there was none.
She was just like a fangirl of his because he was like a hero of the rebellion.
Number one is never date fangirls. You know that, right? You shouldn't date fangirls. It is always a very, very bad idea. Do
Awkward.
not date fangirls. There is.
Awkward.
Right? It's a bad idea.
That's not been my experience. There was a new Admiral Jurassic Park lady with purple hair, and
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm going to agree with you on this one. I think. The purple hair, Laura Dern from Jurassic Park. What was that? What was that? Was that? Let me see what you're going to say first.
she ends up being sort of a protagonist a little bit in the movie. At least she's framed as like she's a bad guy and she's making all the wrong decisions.
She's like tough.
Sorry about that.
He's a tough leader.
Poe has to basically try to figure out how to convince her to do the right thing. Her character is intentionally mysterious because you need to be able to believe Poe doesn't trust her. And we as the audience can't trust her because we don't know anything about her. Leia and...
Actually, I think she was in Bloodlines. The character was in Bloodlines, the book. I think. I'd have to go back and look. Anyways, go ahead.
Luke, and they don't really do much character. Well, Luke does a little bit of character development, but Leia doesn't really do any. She's basically just good old, reliable Leia the entire time.
Yeah, one thing that just... that's the one thing in the back of my mind with this movie. It's like, I watch all these guys, and it's like anti-SJW shit. And the running joke is that we got a purple-haired feminist here, and that was in the back of my mind. But if I had nothing to do with that, I don't care. I don't care that Laura Dern had purple hair. But, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Okay.
Kylo was my favorite character in the last movie. He still ends up being the most interesting character because he's still on an ever-changing character arc. He's embarrassed and humiliated by his loss against Rey from the first movie. He's still physically scarred. Snoke is pissed at him, and he's still got his helmet on, and they like intentionally make the robotic voice on the helmet sound even more annoying than usual, just so Snoke could be like, take that stupid thing off your head. He has to take the mask off, and like it's like a growing up moment for him. It is really childish for him to wear that mask because Darth Vader wore it because he literally needed to. It's like a fanboy thing. That's the first thing you see.
That's a good point. That's really a good point. First good point you made. Yeah, okay.
See from him is him literally growing up from his experience, but then also finding out basically that he's even more at odds with his master than before. So he's got a huge motivation in the movie. He still has conflict in him. He's still fighting between the light and the dark. He's still trying to become super dark, but even Snoke sees, and he's like pissed about this because he's trying to purge that from himself. Rey is going to try to get him to turn back to good. So like, Kylo actually has something interesting happening.
I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now.
movies do have 3, usually like multiple plots going on, but this movie felt like 3 different movies. It felt like each plot was directed by a different person.
Technically, the main story was the Rey being trained by Luke storyline. That felt very Star Wars. There's actually like weird animals and weird aliens on this planet. Luke drinks weird blue milk out of an animal that's on the beach.
The blue milk thing. But that basically decided where the blue milk came from. Because there was blue milk in A New Hope. Yeah. Aunt Beru like poured blue milk, so we know where blue milk comes from now, I guess.
Animal that he drinks the milk from is disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, that's Star Wars. He ends up killing a fish and he's carrying the dead fish on his back and the fish looks horrible. That's Star Wars. Luke trains Rey just as Yoda trained him, but Luke ends up doing it in a very cynical, like, the Jedi are terrible, these are your lessons.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah, though it's a little bit more cheesy.
Get off my phone! Ah.
The only real problem with it was that you only get these quick snippets. They show you these very brief moments of this happening, and then they make you go back to shittier parts of the movie that you don't want to watch. I felt like the pacing was fucked. I felt like
the tone, the pacing.
You didn't even really get to experience the scene and process it before you're on to the next thing.
The other plotline was Poe and the purple hair lady, like their power.
Laura Dern's character, Holdo? I don't want to say Hondo, because Hondo is a character in Star Wars Rebels. I think.
Battle for controlling the ship.
Yeah, Poe just got demoted. Princess Leia is indisposed. They've got this new admiral in, and the new admiral's a hard.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that Princess Leia thing, because that was like, oh man, it's like kind of cringy, but I see where they were going with it, because we've all wanted to see Princess Leia have force powers. Yeah.
Hard ass and doesn't respect Poe, and Poe thinks she's making all the wrong decisions. That's sort of intriguing.
I told you this was gonna be long. I told you it's gonna be long.
But on its own, that doesn't really hold up, because what's actually happening in that scene is a very small group of rebel ships is barely outrunning a huge fleet of First Order ships.
A very small group of Star Wars fans is outrunning a bunch of critics that want to shit on the movie. Okay, alright.
Running out. So this is the tension.
Yeah.
Time is running out, and if all the people in the movie fail, if all 3 plot lines fail, then those rebels die. But the thing is, that's for 2 hours the ships are running away.
Yeah.
For 2 hours, it's a turtle snail chase. That's like a filler episode for like a Star Wars Clone Wars show.
Yeah.
That's what you'd expect from a serial, not like a mainline story for a huge, big budget movie series.
I feel like this entire movie was like that, though. I feel like this entire movie wasn't good enough to be a movie.
There's nothing that makes this movie stand out from any other movie.
It's gonna be a very forgettable episode of Star Wars in this whole series.
The original trilogy is timeless. It still holds up. These new movies aren't really meant to last like that. Like, already I'm bored with Force Awakens. I don't think I'll ever watch it again. They're gonna feel dated very soon.
The third plot. The third one.
So this is kind of like a side story, but Finn and his new pal, the Rose, have to go to a casino planet to find this master hacker.
This subplot, whatever, is that what it's called? Subplot? It didn't feel like Star Wars at all. I completely forgot I was watching a Star Wars movie. It felt like it took place on Earth in a casino.
You know what it reminded me of?
It took me out of
It
the
kind of
movie.
reminded me of the movie The Golden Compass. Have you ever seen that movie?
We watched it together.
It's like whimsical. It's like a little girl's fairy tale.
I'd hire myself an armored bear.
I will serve you in your campaign.
Not a Star Wars episode. That entire subplot doesn't end up amounting